Mr. Minister, I thank you so much for taking the time to be with me, and good morning.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
As always, it is good having here. This is disturbing to us because we are talking about 200 tons of rice with a value of $400,000 in these difficult times where the country also imports rice. It is reported that rice is being left to rot. In thanking you for
Yeah.
being here, could you address that for us, please, this morning?
Well, this is one of the challenges we face in getting, the improving the rice sector, and I've been talking a lot about it. And one of the statements I've made since November 2015 was that we needed to get local rice back on the shelves. And in 2015, when I came in, we did not have local rice on the shelf. We had local rice being milled by national flour mills in an arrangement with the government. And generally, the rice was ending up as pet rice. And that is because I've also said that it is very clear that national flour mills does not consider the milling and packaging of local rice to be a priority for them. And the mill at Carlson Field has been offered for sale on many occasions, and it's never been completed. And it is important that the local rice farmers and rice producers be involved in the milling of rice. And out of that came the initiative involving Zamir Akalu and Island Grain, which became a brand of local rice that went onto the market in 2016. After that, some smaller brands, including the Navet Lagoon brand, went on the rice. And the idea is to have the local planters do as much milling as they could. So a month ago, this matter came to my attention. It's not new with that mill in Carlson Field. It has to do with poor management and lack of interest in dealing with the local rice in a fair manner.
The Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries is my guest. And Mr. Minister, I just want to pause there just for a moment, because if the NFM, the National Flour Mill, said that they are not interested in, they did not have an interest in moving this forward, if I understood you correctly, it is owned 51% by the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, of course, and the minister, I read the Guardian article which says that the line minister for NFM will investigate. But a month ago, I met with the major rice producers, and I met National Flour Mills' CEO was in the room, and ADB's CEO was in the room, as well as the technocrats from the ministry. And it was to update the rice farmers on where we're heading in terms of the upcoming season. And it was to get a sense of how we did in the last season. And the farmers raised with me that issue of the rice which was not milled. And the issue is really, from my understanding of it, subject to what the Minister of Trade finds. There's an issue of the moisture content in the rice as it comes to the mill for milling. And the failure of NFM to have in place the drying equipment. The equipment has, from what I heard, works and stops and so on. And drying of the paddy is a very important part of the processing of the paddy. And the rice that was there rotting, of course, is rice that had been there from previous years on, into which was added from the last season. So it's something that has been happening for a while. Of course, we do get a significant amount of local rice milled at NFM, but when the drying equipment is not operational, we do have situations where the damp rice cannot be milled, and it is set aside. And that is not something taxpayers of this country. Rice is one of the most supported commodities. Rice is supported in many ways, including the guaranteed price that taxpayers pay for the rice and the cost we bear in milling the rice. And it's not an acceptable position, particularly for NFM, which is majority owned by the taxpayers of this country. But moving forward, the facility at Carlson Field has been advertised. Again, there is some interest, as far as I know, in the local private sector in getting involved in the sector. And that and the expansion of the mill that Zamir Akalu has and the other producers are developing, that is the way forward. The milling has to be in the hands of the producers. The reason I had ADB in that meeting is because Mr. Akalu has made an application to ADB for a loan to expand the the facility that he has, and I have indicated to ADP that it is something that government fully supports. It's the direction we want to go. I mean, and unfortunately, it happens from time to time. The media, actually, the Guardian reporter, Joel Julian, actually sent me a text at 6:58 p.m. last night for comment, and sometimes that is very unfortunate. I was on the job from early yesterday morning into the afternoon, and by the time that text message got to me, it would have been far too late to make my comments on the story, and sometimes that happens. But I'm happy to talk about it. I know there will be further discussions about it. It's not something that I was happy to see this morning, because as a government and as a country, we've made a lot of investment into getting rice back onto the shelf. Island Grain is a success story. Navet Lagoon Brand is a success story. And it is important that while NFM is involved as the miller of the rice, that they get their act together. I'm very disappointed that a state enterprise, a state company could show that level of disinterest in the investment that the government is making.
Let us remind our listeners the voice you're hearing is that of the Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, Clarence Rambharat. We're talking about the situation with the rice that's piled up at Carlson Field. Normally, I understand your disappointment, and that disappointment, I will use even stronger, is quite disquieting, because usually when you see this level of disregard for the taxpayers' dollars, some heads would roll. And I know that you said you've had discussion with folks at the NFM. I know you've had looking for a solution to this, but some heads should roll when you're talking about, at one point, the import to this country for rice was in the vicinity of $100 million.
We're going to continue to import rice. There's no question about it. We can't produce enough to sustain, but the fact is that in communities like Navet and Flomita, even in Caroni area, rice, the activity in rice cultivation is important economic activity. And it's something that we ought to be encouraging in terms of nutrition and food security. We want to be producing local rice for human consumption. That is very clear government policy. And I would discuss it with my colleague, the line minister, Minister Gopi Skoon. She was out of the country and returned yesterday. And it is something that both of us would, as we normally have done in relation to things that matter to both our ministries, we'd get together and with it as we move towards the possible divestment of the mill from the hands of National Flour Mills. But as I say, I have put a lot of personal in the sense of the ministry's time into rice, making the trips across the country, meeting with the farmers, and trying to rebuild from the position we were in 2015. Credit to the last administration. Some work was done, some new farmers were brought on stream, but it's something that requires a sustained effort, and the milling and marketing side is critical. I think Zamir Akalu has made a quantum leap in terms of getting the Island Grain brand out, and it's for Minister Gopi Skoon and I tomorrow to huddle over the issue and find out from NFM what needs to be done in order to get this right while we pursue the divestment of the mill.
So it is not overly optimistic to expect we will not have more rice purchased and dumped in the Carlson Field area.
Well, it's our responsibility. I mean, my responsibility is to get it to the mill, and I have a further interest in getting it onto the shelves. That is why we in this. I am a proud user. I don't particularly like parboiled rice. I'm not a fan of it. I have an interest personally in consuming local lagoon rice, and there are a lot of people like me. We also have an interest in consuming hill rice, which is doing well in Moruga and also attracting once again some international attention. There are people who have an interest in supporting local farmers and local commodities, and our all we have to do is to get it into their hands, and all private and public players need to be supportive of it. It's a disappointment to see the article, but it's something, as I said, was brought to my attention. I have been working to to address the issue
I
as we prepare for our next round of harvesting and milling.
I have referred to you before as one of the hardest working ministers. Others concur with me on that. I know you are also a straight shooter that makes it easy for us. And you, even so, you are in the business of politics, and I would expect that prudence would guide you to be gentle with your utterance. My disquiet about the amount of money being spent here will force me to be injudicious and hope that some heads, in fact, roll at the end of this, because it makes no sense. I understand everything you have said. We understand the situation at Carlson Field, but how could we have a situation where crop was just recently bought and that rice was poured on top, rice that everybody knows is spoiling and it's not going anywhere? We at the time, I just came off a discussion with Professor Dr. Terence Farrell, talking about the difficult times that we all know we are facing, and for this to go on, it is something that begs redress with some action.
It points to poor management, and it points to indifferent management and lack of interest in the money that is spent by the taxpayers. And I mean, I may be a politician, yes, but I really don't stand for nonsense, and it's something that needs to be addressed. We had a similar situation with we inherited with cocoa being bought and just left in warehouses. We've addressed that. We've gotten some movement on that. It's not something that is happening, and my job together with the Minister of Trade is to resolve this matter. There's no milling taking place now, but we do have in a few weeks' time the farmers are going to be harvesting again. So we have to get it right for the next rounds of harvesting.
Mr. Minister,
as we await the divestment. And are you going to ask me about Shaka Shakari this morning?
I'm going to do that. I just want to make one point before I talk about Shaka Shakari. I just want to make a little thing that I keep in mind all the time. I always equate poor management with door management. I'm hoping that happens. All right, so you're down on Shaka Shakari this morning. It's a cleanup drive that you're doing down there. Make clear to our listeners what is happening, please.
Well, it's part of what my colleague, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Kazim Hussain, has launched, the National Cleanup. And when we launched it in January on the foreshore, I signaled a commitment by the ministry to do Shaka Shakari Island this weekend. So yesterday there was some, Friday and yesterday there were some activities not involving the public. And today we have about 200 people here brought with the kind support of the Coast Guard. They've been at work since about 9 o'clock, having been fed and briefed before that. And the one thing the chairman of the Shagara Ramos Development Authority is here. The authority has responsibility for the island. The chairman of the EMA is here. And other persons who are in decision-making positions. One of the things with the waste we're picking up at Shaka Shakari, I'll tell you, no surprise, excessive amount of plastic water bottles in particular, some of which are brought onto the island by people who come to enjoy the island, particularly the people who come on party boats, and some brought by the waters. And I think in both cases we have a lot of control over what we bring to the island, we deal and what we throw.
Mr. Minister, your phone is beginning to give me a challenge there. I don't know if you can go back to the position you were a moment ago. I think walking around, I'm losing you.
Right. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you better now. Please continue.
Right. So what we're seeing is the excessive amount of plastics. Now, the government is preparing to lay in Parliament once again the beverage container bill, which will deal with recycling and, particularly plastic containers. We also will take a policy position on styro in the way in which other countries have done it. And we really, as a country, have to be sensitive to the fact that this is such a pristine and beautiful country, particularly the oceans and the rivers. And as individuals, a lot of people make comments and spend time on social media talking about what's wrong and all of this in the country. A simple thing as depositing a piece of waste in the right place will make a massive difference in this country. I have said that one of the things I would stop doing is going into people's communities and with outsiders and doing the cleanup. I have gone in parts of the country where, people who live in that community stand up and watch us clean. I was back in Matura last week with the Matura community and people from all over the country cleaning up for the nesting season. I'm here in Shakashikari. There are no residents on Shakashikari, so we're here to clean it up. And at 2 o'clock, a party boat will arrive. People will descend here, and most likely they would go about their business dumping the waste. But I did have a discussion with the chairman of the CDA this morning, and suggested to him that the deposit that the party boats pay to use Shakashikari Island should be held
Precisely.
until the place has been cleaned up. And if it's not cleaned up, then the deposit should be forfeited. And that simple administrative action will force action on to make sure that people who come and use public facilities also use it responsibly, so it is available for the next user.
You can say it, but people only do it when their pockets feel it.
Of course.
Education, I tell you, this is education for everybody to understand the need to do. I'm happy, and I applaud what you're doing down there. I also thank you for taking the time to be with us. Minister.
Of course, just to say, I have a lot of school children down here this morning, and a few weeks ago I highlighted the new recycling program in the zoo, where we are taking plastic bottles, styro, and other waste that is not metal or glass, and producing benches and flower pots and plant pots and so on. And I made a promise to the students this morning that we would use the waste they've gathered here to make some of these items for their schools.
We will be out of a world if we keep eliminating all the waste. If we can recycle it, clearly that is a good initiative. Mr. Minister, I thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and enjoy the rest of your cleanup down there. I think the theme there is team up to clean up. Have yourself a wonderful day, sir.